My wife was diagnosed with cancer. I quit my job, sold our property, and spent 7 years by her side fighting the disease. Before she died, she held my hand, looked at her first love who had rushed to her side, and said, "Afong, if I hadn't married him back then, would I have suffered so much?" He couldn't even bear to buy me the best imported medicine. I clutched the payment slip for the medicine I had just scraped the money together for, my body turning ice cold. For 7 years, I had lived on instant noodles and slept in hospital corridors, spending every penny on her, only to be accused of being unwilling to spend. I was reborn on the day of her cancer diagnosis. The doctor was discussing the treatment plan with me. She was secretly texting her first love, "Come to the hospital quickly. He definitely can't afford it. You have to be the one to decide for me." I saw the message on her phone screen and directly signed the consent form to give up treatment. In this life, if you want to find someone who can give you the best life, I won't stand in your way. Just don't let me trade my true heart for your coldness again. The smell of disinfectant in the hospital was pungent. I stood in the corridor outside the consultation room, my head buzzing. The doctor's words from just now cut into my nerves like a dull knife. Gu Qing's test results are back. Liver cancer late stage. Every word was as heavy as a mountain. I had to lean against the cold wall to barely keep myself steady. 7 years. This point in time struck me like lightning. I had returned to 7 years ago, the day Gu Qing was first diagnosed. All the memories came rushing back like a tide, instantly drowning me. Quitting my job during a promising career. Selling the marital home we had so carefully decorated. Traveling between cities seeking medical treatment. The cold chairs in the hospital corridors became my bed for countless nights. The taste of instant noodle seasoning still makes my stomach churn just thinking about it. At the very end, the pale hand she held tightly was not mine. It belonged to that man named Zhao Feng. Her breath was faint, but she used her last ounce of strength to say to Zhao Feng, "Ah Feng, if I hadn't married him back then, would I have suffered so much?" He couldn't even bear to buy me the best imported medicine. At that moment, I was clutching the receipt for the next round of expensive medication I had just managed to pay for. In that instant, the blood in my entire body ran cold. 7 years of devotion, giving her my whole heart, sacrificing everything I had. In return, all I got was an accusation of being unwilling to spend. The immense absurdity and sharp pain almost suffocated me. And now I was back. "Mr. Lin," the doctor's voice pulled me back from my memories. He looked at me with professional sympathy in his eyes. "We need to decide on Ms. Gu's treatment plan as soon as possible. There are several options right now. Conventional chemotherapy, or we could try some new targeted drugs. The results might be better, but the cost." The doctor's words overlapped with my memories. I remember last time, I chose the most aggressive and also the most expensive option almost without hesitation. I told the doctor decisively, "Use the best medicine. Money is not an issue." And then I began that 7-year-long journey through hell. This time, I didn't answer immediately. My gaze fell on the slightly ajar door of the consultation room. Gu Qing was half reclining on the hospital bed, looking down at her phone. Her fingers were typing rapidly. Her profile still had the delicate beauty I remembered, but also held a hint of anxiety I had overlooked in my past life. A thought uncontrollably surfaced. Her last words to Zhao Feng in my past life, were they really just the ramblings of a gravely ill person? As if possessed, I took out my phone. Gu Qing and I had matching phones, and the password was our wedding anniversary. I had always respected her privacy and never checked her phone, but now a cold intuition compelled me. I entered the password. The screen unlocked. The WeChat interface was still open. The contact at the very top was Feng. The last message was sent just a few minutes ago. From Gu Qing. "The doctor says my condition is not good and I need a lot of money for treatment." Referring to me, "Definitely can't afford that much. Come to the hospital quickly and make the decision for me. I'm afraid he'll delay my treatment to save money." Every word stabbed into my eyes like a needle. An icy chill shot up from the soles of my feet and instantly spread throughout my body. So, from the very beginning, in her heart, I was already a husband who would delay her treatment to save money. So, she had already been asking another man for help, placing her hopes on someone else. In her eyes, Were all my struggles and sacrifices over those 7 years just a ridiculous one-man show? Or even proof of my stinginess? Mr. Lin, the doctor called my name again, questioningly. I looked up at him. The doctor before me overlapped and then separated from the tired, anxious faces I had seen over the past 7 years in my memory. I took a deep breath. The smell of disinfectant in the air made me exceptionally clear-headed. The volcano in my heart, which had burned for her for 7 years, even burning myself to depletion, was now completely extinguished. Only cold ash remained. I opened my mouth, my voice so calm it surprised even me. Doctor, we'll opt for conservative treatment. The doctor seemed a little surprised. With conservative treatment, the main goal is to alleviate pain. In terms of controlling the illness, it might. I cut him off, speaking clearly. I understand. I'll sign. I took the blank treatment consent form from the doctor's hand. In the family member's signature line, I didn't hesitate for a moment. I wrote, forego aggressive treatment, opt for palliative care. Then I signed my name, Lin Shoqing. Shoqing. To guard sincerity. For the past 7 years, this name had been like a tightening band around my head. Now I didn't want to guard it anymore. I couldn't. Holding the signed document, I pushed open the office door. Gu Qing immediately put down her phone, her face changing to a soft, helpless expression. Shoqing, what did the doctor say? Her voice held a deliberate tremble. Is it going to cost a lot of money? Last time, I would have held her tightly, my heart aching, and told her not to be afraid, that I was there. This time, I just looked at her calmly. The doctor said the situation isn't optimistic. The specific plan still needs to be determined by a consultation. I didn't mention the signing. Gu Qing's brows furrowed slightly, seemingly displeased with my calmness. She subconsciously glanced at her phone again. Then, what about the money? She asked softly. We don't have much savings left. I walked to the window, looking at the bustling crowd below. There will be a way, I said faintly, but my heart was a wasteland of indifference. A way? Last time, I tried every possible way, run myself dry. This time, you can figure it out yourself. Haven't you already called for the person who can call the shots for you? I'll wait. The hospital room was quiet. Gu Qing leaned against the headboard, restless. She kept looking toward the door, then back at me. I was finally no longer the husband who would be running around frantically, calling everyone to scrape money together. This made her very uncomfortable. Shoqing, aren't you going to call your parents? Or your friends? She asked tentatively. Ask them what? I turned to look at her. Well, about the money. She was getting anxious. The treatment can't wait. Yes, it can't wait. I agreed, but made no move. She bit her lip, her face turning paler. I knew who she was waiting for. She was waiting for Zhao Feng. Zhao Feng was her first love. He was said to come from a good family and had his own small company, considered one of the more successful ones among her classmates. Back then, many were surprised when Gu Qing chose me over Zhao Feng. When we occasionally argued after getting married, she would blurt out, if I had chosen Zhao Feng back then, would I be living this kind of life? Each time, I treated it as something said in anger, and it would pass after I coaxed her a little. Thinking back now, perhaps that was her truest thought. The door was pushed open. A man in a suit, his hair slicked back, walked in. He was carrying a fruit basket. It was Zhao Feng. He looked younger than he would 7 years later, his brow carrying the shrewdness typical of a businessman, along with a hint of deliberately crafted concern. Ching Ching. He walked straight to the hospital bed, his tone filled with exaggerated heartache. What happened? Is it serious? Gu Qing's eyes instantly turned red. A sense of being wronged, of dependence, and a kind of vulnerability she had never shown in front of me. Ah Feng. Her voice choked with sobs. You're here. She glanced at me, her expression complicated, but it quickly turned back to Zhao Feng, as if she had found her pillar of support. I stood where I was an outsider, coldly watching this drama of a long-awaited reunion unfold. You must be Mr. Lin? Zhao Feng acted as if he had just noticed me, extending his hand with a condescending sort of politeness. I'm Zhao Feng, a friend of Ching Ching's. I didn't shake his hand, just nodded. Lin Shoqing. Zhao Feng's hand froze in midair for a moment. He retracted it awkwardly, then turned to Gu Qing, his tone becoming serious. What did the doctor say exactly? What kind of treatment is needed? Don't you worry about the money. I'm here. He spoke with magnanimous passion. Gu Qing's tears fell even harder. The doctor said we need to use good medicine, imported ones. They're very expensive. She sobbed. Shouqing, you know our family situation. She didn't finish her sentence, but the meaning was clear. She had, with practiced ease, pushed the financial pressure and the difficult choice onto me. Last time, it was under this exact pressure that I was forced to make the decision to bankrupt our family. This time, I remained silent. Zhao Feng looked at me, his brows slightly furrowed, his tone reproachful. Mr. Lin, this is where you're wrong. Qingqing's illness can't be delayed. Money is a worldly possession. People are the most important. At a time like this, a man has to step up. He spoke with such self-righteousness, as if he were the most responsible person present. The gazes of the other patients and their families in the ward, intentionally or not, began to focus on us. Whispers started to ripple through the room. That's right, treatment is the priority. Why isn't this man saying anything? It seems like he doesn't want to spend the money. His friend is the reasonable one. Onlookers are always like this, easily swayed by appearances, eager to take sides to display their own sense of justice. They couldn't see every sin I had saved from eating instant noodles in my past life, nor could they see my helplessness in the hospital corridor late at night. They only saw this moment, a generous friend, a silent husband, and a pitiful patient. Such an easy situation to judge. Amidst Zhao Feng's words and the surrounding gossip, Gu Qing seemed to gain a certain confidence. She looked at me, her voice carrying a subtle hint of coercion. Shouqing, Alphone means well. Say something. Are we going to treat this or not? All the pressure seemed to converge on me, waiting for me to beat my chest and take on everything, just like in my previous life. I lifted my head, my gaze calmly sweeping over Zhao Feng before finally landing on Gu Qing's face. Treat it. Of course, we'll treat it, I said slowly. A flicker of light appeared in both Gu Qing's and Zhao Feng's eyes. The surrounding chatter subsided a little, as if they thought I had come to my senses. But then I continued. However, the doctor said there are several treatment plans. Which one to use depends on the actual situation and what the family can afford. The best medicine isn't necessarily the most suitable one. My words were like a basin of cold water, extinguishing the small spark of hope that had just been ignited. Zhao Feng immediately retorted, Mr. Lin, that's not right. Of course, you should use the best medicine for treatment. Are you not going to use it just because it's expensive? This is a matter of life and death. Exactly. How can he think like that? The murmurs rose again. Gu Qing looked at me, her eyes filled with disappointment and disbelief. Shouqing, what do you mean? I looked at them, at these faces held hostage by correctness. There was no ripple in my heart. What I mean is, I slowly took out the copy of the consent to forego aggressive treatment form that I had just signed from my pocket. I placed it gently on the bedside table. The black characters on the white paper were perfectly clear. I have decided to opt for conservative palliative care. This is the signed consent form. In an instant, the ward fell deathly silent. Gu Qing's eyes widened, staring at the paper as if she couldn't recognize the words on it. Zhao Feng was also stunned, clearly not expecting me to be so direct, so heartless. The surrounding whispers turned into audible gasps and accusations. My God, forego treatment. Doesn't that mean? That's too cruel. That's his wife. He looks like a decent person. How could he do this? I knew it. Something was off with him just now. The blind conformity and malice in human nature were laid bare at this moment. They knew nothing of the real situation. They were just eager to convict me based on the scene before them. Zhao Feng was the first to react. He snatched the paper, glanced at it, and then roared at me, furious. Lin Shouqing, are you even human? Qingqing is your wife. You actually signed to give up her treatment. Aren't you just pushing her to her death? Gu Qing finally broke down, crying out with a wah, and collapsing onto the bed, her shoulders shaking violently. Why? Shouqing, why are you doing this to me? She cried her heart out, as if she had suffered the greatest injustice in the world. Zhao Feng pointed a finger at my nose. I'm telling you, Lin Shouqing, if you won't pay for the treatment, I will. Zhao Feng will pay for it. This sentence was like a clap of thunder. It exploded in the ward. and it exploded in Gu Qing's ears. Her sobs miraculously subsided a little. She peeked over, a sliver of hope in her eyes. The onlookers were also stunned by this turn of events, and then they broke into praise. Look, that's a real man. Sigh, what a pity for such a good woman. This husband is a real piece of work. Thank goodness she has a friend to help. A friend in need is a friend indeed. Listening to all this, I just wanted to laugh. Look how touching. A hero saving the damsel in distress. The moral high ground was firmly occupied by Zhao Feng, and I had become the cold-blooded, stingy, and unworthy husband in everyone's eyes. This was exactly what I wanted. I used to work at a design institute. The income was steady, but not substantial. I haven't submitted my resignation letter yet. After all, the diagnosis was just confirmed today, but that job had limited prospects and wouldn't be enough to support my future. I remember there were a few good opportunities in recent years. A college classmate invited me to join his tech startup, but I refused at the time because Gu Qing wanted me to have a stable job. There was also a project for renovating old residential communities. It was very profitable, but required some initial capital and a lot of effort. In my past life, I missed it because of Gu Qing's illness. Now I can reconsider all of these. And then there's the house. The house we live in now, my parents made the down payment when we got married, and we paid the mortgage together. It's not large, but the location is decent. In my past life, I sold it quickly at a low price to raise money. In this life, I will never sell it. Not only will I not sell it, I will protect it. It is the foundation of my future security. As for Gu Qing, since Zhao Feng has so generously taken on this burden, let him see it through to the end. It's not that I don't want revenge. Rather, the greatest revenge is to let go, to let her have her wish and rely on the good man she believes in. I'm curious, without me, her reluctant husband, standing in the way, how much of a test from reality can their so-called true love withstand? The hospital bills, the pressures of life, the torment of illness. Zhao Feng's small company looks successful on the surface, but I know its cash flow has always been tight. Can he really give everything without reservation, as he claims? And Gu Qing, what will happen when she discovers that the good man she placed such high hopes in cannot easily provide the best life? This is much more interesting than taking revenge myself. Having thought this through, I actually felt a sense of peace. The next day, I turned on my phone. Countless missed calls and text messages flooded in. There were calls from Gu Qing, her mother, a few of my relatives, and even some unknown numbers, probably Zhao Feng using other people's phones. Without exception, they were all condemnations, questions, and attempts at persuasion. I didn't reply to a single one. I first went home to grab a few changes of clothes and important documents. The traces of Gu Qing's presence still lingered in the house, but I felt no emotional stirrings. Then, I went to my office. I went straight to my supervisor and resigned. My supervisor was very surprised and tried hard to convince me to stay. Shouqing, I heard you have some family matters. You can take leave. There's no need to resign. You're very competent, and the institute values you highly. I declined his kind offer. Brother Wang, thank you, but I have other plans. I didn't mention Gu Qing's illness, only citing personal reasons. After completing the resignation procedures, I felt a wave of relief. After leaving the Design Institute, I called my classmate who had started his own business. Hey, Binzi, it's me, Shouqing. Whoa, did the sun rise in the west? What made you think of calling me? My classmate Jobin laughed on the other end. That offer you made last time about investing in your company, is it still on the table? I asked directly. Jobin was stunned for a moment, then became excited. It is. Of course it is. Have you finally come to your senses, you rascal? You're finally willing to leave that dead-end design institute. Yeah, I'm out. Do you have time to meet and talk in detail? Absolutely. Tonight is fine. The usual place, drinks are on me. After hanging up, I looked at the bustling streets. A new life was beginning. Meanwhile, my infamy was spreading at an even faster rate. Through the tearful accusations of Gu Qing and her family, through Zhao Feng's intentional and unintentional embellishments, and through friends, relatives, and onlookers who didn't know the truth. Lin Shouqing, became the scum of the earth who, after his wife was diagnosed with cancer, coldly signed to give up her treatment and washed his hands of her. Some local social media accounts even started writing short, sensational articles with vague headlines. A question of humanity. Wife with terminal cancer. Husband seeks to abandon with a single agreement. First love steps up righteously. When will the cold-hearted husband return? The comment sections were filled with curses directed at me. This kind of man doesn't deserve to live. Trash. Go to hell. Hang in there, sis, a better man is waiting for you. I looked at these comments, feeling nothing, and even found them a little amusing. A carnival of blind conformity. They needed a target like this to display their own moral superiority. They didn't care about the truth. So be it. Let these voices be the background noise to my break with the past. As planned, I went to meet Joe Bin that evening. He had heard about my situation and asked cautiously, Shoching, is something wrong at home? I heard about your wife. I took a sip of my drink, perfectly calm. Yes, she's sick. Cancer. Joe had been sucked in a breath. Then you still. I signed the papers to give up on aggressive treatment. I said, looking at him. Joe Bin's eyes widened, as if he didn't recognize me. Binzi, I put down my glass. Let me tell you a story. I selectively told him about the 7 years of my past life, and about the messages I saw Gu Qing send to Zhao Feng after I was reborn. I didn't mention the rebirth, only that I discovered my wife's heart had long belonged to another, and that she had already found her next prospect the moment she was diagnosed. After hearing me out, Zhou Bin was silent for a long time. He slammed his hand on the table. Fuck, what the hell is this? You did the right thing. Shoching, with this kind of woman, this kind of family, the sooner you get out, the better. Why should you have to take this? You gave her everything, and in the end, you're the one with the bad name. I've got your back, brother. He refilled my glass. Don't worry about the company. I'd be thrilled to have you join. It might be tough at the beginning, but the prospects are definitely good. At that moment, I knew I had found my first ally, someone who knew part of the truth and chose to stand with me. That was enough. I don't need the whole world to understand me. I just need to keep moving in my own direction. I didn't go back to the hospital, but news from there still reached my ears intermittently, mainly through my mother. Although she found it hard to accept at first, after our conversation and some rumors she heard from other channels, like Zhao Feng indeed appearing frequently at the hospital, her attitude slowly began to change. From initial blame, it turned into worry and helplessness. Zhao Feng transferred her to another hospital, a private one with better conditions, he said. They're using all imported drugs. The daily cost is several thousand. Zhao Feng also hired a caregiver. My mother sighed on the phone. Everyone outside is saying Zhao Feng is so loyal and righteous, and you. Mom, let them talk. I interrupted her. Is Gu Qing satisfied now? My mother was silent for a moment. Her family is all praising Zhao Feng, saying you. Sigh. I could imagine the scene. Gu Qing and her family gathered around her, grateful for Zhao Feng's timely help, while trampling me underfoot as a negative example. This was exactly what she wanted. Shoching, what will you do now? My mother asked worriedly. I have a plan, Mom, don't worry. You and Dad, just take care of yourselves. I hung up the phone and continued with my business. The collaboration with Zhou Bin's company went smoothly. I invested a portion of the savings I had prepared for Gu Qing's treatment, and with my technical expertise as equity, I became a partner. The workload was intense, but I was full of energy. I was also keeping an eye on the old residential community renovation project and began to quietly do some preliminary research. The days were busy and fulfilling. Occasionally, I would hear fragmented pieces of news from mutual friends. It seems Gu Qing had a very strong reaction to her first chemo. She was vomiting a lot. Zhao Feng seemed quite proactive at the beginning, but it seems he's been visiting less frequently later on. I heard the costs are too high. Zhao Feng seems to be under some pressure, and he even argued with Gu Qing's mom. The news was a mix of truth and rumor, but I could guess the general situation. The weight of reality was beginning to show. Zhao Feng was no saint. His generosity had its limits. And Gu Qing, under the torment of illness and a huge psychological gap, how would she fare? About 2 months passed. Someone I didn't expect came looking for me. It was Gu Qing's mother, Li Suhua. She came directly to the temporary office I was sharing with Zhou Bin. Having not seen her for a few months, she had aged considerably, her face etched with fatigue and anxiety. When she saw me, her expression was complex. There was resentment, but more than that, a kind of helpless pleading. Shoching, she began, her voice hoarse. Auntie, can I help you? I invited her to sit, my tone distant. Shoching, I know, Ching. She's done you wrong. Li Suhua wrung her hands, saying with some difficulty, but she is your wife, after all. Legally, she still is, but she won't be for long, I said calmly. I've already entrusted a lawyer to prepare the divorce papers. Li Suhua's head snapped up, her eyes wide with shock. You want a divorce? What else? I retorted. She has Mr. Zhao Feng to take care of her now. Isn't that great? No. Shoching. Li Suhua grew anxious. Zhao Feng. He's not reliable. Oh, I feigned interest, as if I wanted to hear more. As if she had found an outlet. Li Suhua began to pour out her grievances. He was quite good at the beginning, generous with money too. But how long has it been? He's already started complaining that the costs are too high. He was several days late with the last payment. I had to cover part of it. The caregiver we hired also quit. Now I'm the one taking care of everything. As soon as he comes, he argues with Ching, saying money doesn't grow on trees. Ching is in a very bad state emotionally, and her condition is unstable. As she spoke, tears fell from her eyes. Shoching, I'm begging you. For the sake of our past. Zhao Feng, he seems to have other women on the side. I heard his company isn't doing well either. Ching knows she was wrong. She regrets it. She cries every day, saying she wants to see you. I listened quietly, feeling no sympathy, only a cold sense of validation. See, just as I expected. Regret. I repeated the words softly, with a hint of mockery. Does she regret mistakenly trusting Zhao Feng? Or does she regret losing me, the ever-reliable backup plan? Li Suhua was a loss for words. Auntie, I said, looking at her, she chose this path herself. Back then in the hospital room, in front of everyone, it was Zhao Feng who said, I won't treat her, he will. And it was Gu Qing who tacitly accepted his kindness. Now that she's found out Zhao Feng is unreliable, she remembers our past connection. My connection with her was used up the moment she sent Zhao Feng a message, asking him to come and take charge. My tone was calm, yet carried an unquestionable finality. Li Suhua looked at me, the hope in her eyes extinguishing bit by bit. She probably finally understood that the Lin Shoching who used to dote on Gu Qing and grant her every wish was already dead. He died in the previous life, killed by her daughter's heart-piercing words. He died with that cold medical bill. Shoching, are you really so heartless? She's going to die. She made one last attempt. Life and death are ruled by fate. I stood up. Auntie, I'm very busy. I won't see you out. My lawyer will contact you to sign the divorce papers. If she's unwilling, I will sue. Our marital affection has truly broken down. We've been separated for a long time. The court will grant it. I walked to the door, opened it, my intention to see her out obvious. Li Suhua stood up, devastated, looking at me with eyes full of resentment and despair. Lin Shoching, you'll get what's coming to you. I smiled. Perhaps. But at least, I won't be a fool a second time. Li Suhua left. The office returned to silence. I looked out the window. The city remained as bustling as ever. Gu Qing's regret was within my expectations. But this regret was too cheap. It wasn't because she realized she had failed my sincere heart. It was because she discovered that the fantasy of a better life she had chosen had shattered. She hadn't been reborn. She would never know what I had given for 7 years in our past life. Her current pain stemmed only from the wrong choice she made in this life and the cruelty of reality. What did that have to do with me? In my heart, there was no thrill of revenge, only a complete sense of release. My company with Zhou Bin gradually got on the right track. Although it was hard work, the first project was completed well, and we started to turn a profit. I also seized an opportunity with the old residential community renovation project, relying on my memories and professional judgment from my past life to get involved, earning my first pot of gold after being reborn. I took out a loan and bought a small apartment. It wasn't big, but it was enough to have a place of my own. After some simple renovations, I moved in. Life finally had a new anchor. During this time, I heard that Zhao Feng's company ran into trouble due to a broken capital chain. He completely disappeared from the hospital. Rumor was he had gone to another city to hide from his debts. Gu Qing's treatment had to be transferred from the expensive private hospital back to a public one. Her medication was also switched to common drugs covered by medical insurance. Her family started borrowing money from everyone, but with little success. The voices of those relatives, friends, and onlookers who had once praised Zhao Feng and cursed me grew much quieter. Reality is the best tool for a slap in the face. Occasionally, someone would bring it up, their tone filled with sighs. Sigh, what a pity. That Zhao Feng made it all sound so good back then, but in the end, Lin Shouqing was a bit heartless, but he must have been deeply hurt. The tide of the onlookers' opinions always turned so quickly. They never dig deep, only jumping to conclusions based on surface appearances and then just as easily changing their stance. I didn't care at all. Gu Qing eventually signed the divorce agreement. She probably understood that there was no point in dragging it out. I didn't ask for any assets, and of course, I didn't take on any of the debt. We were completely even. The day I got the divorce certificate, it was a sunny day. I went out alone for a lavish dinner to celebrate my new life. After the meal, I strolled along the riverbank. The river breeze brushed against my face, carrying the scent of moisture. I thought of the coldness and despair of my final moments in my past life. And then I thought of the ease and freedom after letting go in this life. Human nature is perhaps inherently selfish. In her desperation, it was understandable that Gu Qing instinctively chose what she believed to be a path to survival. But her choice contained a negation and betrayal of my devotion, and that is something I cannot forgive. As for those onlookers who blindly followed the trend and criticized wantonly, they were merely the amplified clamor of human nature in a crowd. I no longer need anyone's approval, nor do I live for anyone's judgment. Reborn once, I have seen the human heart clearly and have also found myself. That is enough. On the river in the distance, a ship passed by, letting out a low whistle, like a bugle call for a new life. I took a deep breath and strode forward. My steps were firm. After the divorce, my life returned completely to tranquility. The once clamorous accusations and discussions gradually subsided, like the ebbing tide. People are always forgetful, especially when new topics for gossip arise. I focused on my career. The company with Zhou Bin gradually started to take off. Although it wasn't large, it had already established a firm foothold in the industry. The renovation project for that old residential complex earned me a crucial sum of capital and helped me build some connections. I moved into a small apartment I bought with a loan. Life was simple and fulfilling. Occasionally, I would hear bits and pieces about Gu Qing from my mother. After switching to palliative care, her condition didn't immediately worsen, but her body visibly deteriorated. Having lost Zhao Feng's financial support, and because of the previous high-profile hospital transfer and medication, her family's savings had long been depleted. Her parents sold off some worthless items from their old home to barely get by. I heard her mood was consistently bad afterward. She would often lose her temper with her mother, complaining that fate was unfair. When my mother spoke of these things, she would always sigh. She's a pitiful person, too. I listened in silence, non-committally. Pitiful? Perhaps. But her pitiable state stemmed in large part from her own choices. She chose to depend on me while looking down on me, and to abandon me at the critical moment. She chose to believe Zhao Feng's extravagant promises instead of seeing reality for what it was. This was the path she walked herself, and I have no obligation to pay for her choices. One evening, after working overtime, I was driving back to my apartment. While waiting at a red light, I inadvertently glanced at a familiar figure on the roadside. It was Gu Qing's mother, Li Suhua. She was standing at the entrance of a pharmacy, clutching a few small bills and anxiously saying something to the clerk. She looked even more aged and haggard than the last time I saw her, her back hunched, with large patches of white in her hair. The clerk seemed to be in a difficult position, pointing at the money in her hand, then at the medicine on the counter, and shaking his head. A look of despair appeared on Li Suhua's face. She looked as if she was about to fall to her knees. The light turned green. The car behind me honked. I stepped on the accelerator, and the car slowly drove past the pharmacy entrance. In the rearview mirror, Li Suhua's figure grew smaller and smaller, eventually disappearing into the flow of traffic. A slight ripple stirred in my heart, but it quickly calmed down again. This was no longer my responsibility. Everyone must bear the consequences of their own choices. She and her daughter were both the same. I pressed harder on the gas, merging into the nighttime traffic. Outside the car window, the city's neon lights flickered, cold and distant. Time passed quickly. In a flash, more than a year had gone by. My small company took on several good projects, and the team expanded by a few people. Life was gradually getting back on track. I even started to accept my friends' good intentions and tried going on blind dates. Although I hadn't met anyone who truly captured my heart yet, at least I was becoming willing to embrace a new life. One weekend, I went to the hospital for a routine checkup. After finishing, as I was preparing to leave, I saw a frail figure in a wheelchair being pushed by a caregiver in a corner of the outpatient hall. It was Gu Qing. I almost didn't recognize her. Chemotherapy and the illness had tormented her until she was nothing but skin and bones. Her complexion was sallow, her eye sockets were sunken, and her hair was so thin you could see her scalp. She was wrapped in a large, old coat, her gaze empty as she stared at the floor. The woman who was once pretty and carried a hint of pride had been completely devoured by her illness. The caregiver pushing her wore an impatient expression, looking down at her phone from time to time. They seemed to be waiting for something. I had intended to walk away, quietly. But as if sensing something, Gu Qing slowly raised her head. Her gaze swept blankly across the crowd, and then it fixed on me. In that instant, an extremely complex light burst forth from her hollow eyes. There was shocked disbelief, intense shame, and a faint yet clear plea. She opened her mouth, as if trying to call my name, but no sound came out. Her hand lifted slightly, only to fall powerlessly back down. I just watched her from distance, my face expressionless. There was no hatred, nor was there any pity. It was like looking at a complete stranger. The caregiver followed her gaze to me, sized me up for a few moments as if finding me vaguely familiar, then lowered her head and went back to her phone. The hall was bustling with people, a cacophony of noise. Between us lay a short distance of 12 meters, yet it felt like an insurmountable chasm of time and space. The 7 years of my past life, where I gave everything. The bone-chilling, I can't let go before her death. The message she sent to Zhao Feng after my rebirth. The scene of her and Zhao Feng standing side by side in the hospital room. The look of despair and resentment in her eyes as she signed the papers. The curses from her family during the divorce. Countless images flashed through my mind before fading into silence. I withdrew my gaze without lingering, turned, and walked straight towards the hospital entrance. Outside, the sun was bright, almost glaring. I heard a sound from behind me, a deeply suppressed whimper, like that of a wounded animal. But it was quickly drowned out by the noise of the hospital. I didn't look back, not even once. Walking out of the hospital, the warm sunlight shone on me, dispelling the scent of disinfectant and the chilling air within. I took a deep breath of fresh air. In that moment, I knew I had truly moved on, completely. I had walked out of the mire that had consumed all the passion and life of my previous existence. Her pain, her regret, her end, none of it had anything to do with me anymore. In this life, I have let go, and I have also freed myself. Several more months passed. It was a quiet afternoon. I received a call from my mother. Her voice was a little low, tinged with a complex emotion. Shouqing. Yes, Mom, what is it? Gu Qing passed away this morning. There was silence on the other end of the line for a few seconds. Her mother had someone pass on a message. She said that before Gu Qing passed, while she was delirious, she called out your name a few times. She said she was sorry. Holding my phone, I stood by my office window, watching the endless stream of traffic below. My heart was exceptionally calm. No ripples, no sorrow, not even a hint of satisfaction. It was like hearing a distant and unfamiliar piece of news. Oh, I answered softly. The funeral, her family will keep it simple. What do you think? My mother asked tentatively. Mom, I won't be going, I said calmly. There's no need. Sigh. I know. My mother sighed. I just wanted to let you know. You don't overthink it. Yes, I know. Thanks, Mom. After hanging up, I continued with the work at hand. The sound of typing on the keyboard seemed especially clear in the office. After work, I went alone to a noodle shop I frequented and had a bowl of steaming hot beef noodles. It tasted very good. In the evening, I sat on the balcony of my apartment, looking at the city's nightscape. The lights were brilliant, and behind every one, there might be a story of joy or sorrow. I remember my past life, after Gu Qing's death, that hollowed-out, Walking Dead feeling that life had no meaning. But now, my heart held only peace and a slight anticipation for the future. The words, "I'm sorry," were too light to measure the weight of 7 years in a past life. Too light to erase the chill brought by those words. I can't let go. Besides, this apology came at the end of her life. How much of it was born from true remorse, and how much from the fear of death and regret for the past, was impossible to discern, and I had no desire to discern it. Being reborn, my greatest gain wasn't avoiding the fate of financial ruin, nor was it getting a head start in my career. It was that I finally understood that a true heart should be given to someone who deserves it, and I learned that I must be my own person first, before being someone to somebody else. Blind devotion and self-sacrifice that feels like a moral obligation cannot move someone who doesn't love you. It will only drain you. A cold-hearted person will eventually reap what they sow. And what I can do is to stay away from such coldness and cherish myself. The night breeze blew, carrying the warmth of early summer. I picked up the cup of clear tea beside me and took a sip. It was slightly bitter with a sweet aftertaste, just like life.